Adriano Goldman, you were one of the cinematographers on Netflix's The Crown, which is an incredibly cinematic yet intimate look at the early days of Queen Elizabeth II. Can you talk a bit about, I guess you've worked mostly in feature films, and this is a foray into television, but it's very cinematic. So how did you adapt to the television schedule for this?
It's really difficult. I mean, we always try to somehow be able to explain or respond to questions like yours in just a few phrases. But the fact is, it's much more organic than that. For instance, I didn't come to The Crown with any preconceived sort of ideas. The lucky thing about being a DP is that when you land on a project like this, lots of research, had been done before by the design department and the location department. So you basically step onto something that somehow can eventually, in this case, that was very much the case, give you inspiration enough to, instead of starting from absolute scratch, because I don't like myself to rely too much on visual references. So I think I usually do quite the opposite. When the discussions, during the early discussions on prep, the references come up, like Elizabeth or Kate Blanchett playing Elizabeth, or the BBC series like Victoria, or even Downton Abbey, or other period films. I initially avoid researching films and series as references. I mean, we can eventually use, photographs and paintings and stuff like that. But I think my approach is usually this. So let's go to a few locations first, take a few pictures, then we come back to the office. We combine that to a discussion about color and saturation and mood and environment and framing. So it's a long creative process that we somehow all do all together. Me, the directors and the designers, the costume designers. So, and I really, really love working very close to my designers because of my realistic approach, let's say, I do need to know the locations really, really well. So I usually come to the same locations 3-4 times before the shoot starts, just to understand whether, my main source should be, or do I have the option of having my lights outside and keeping the set free? Because it's not only about the look, it's also about a strategy, as you say, to how to manage such a busy, schedule and deliver quality. But I think because Stephen is a film director and his approach to every story is always very sophisticated and unique, and it's very much about choreography in a sense, which is I'm translating as the wide shot. So the wide shots is very much about giving the actors something to do always. And it's also very intimate in a sense that we all realized that we wanted to deliver intense emotional close-ups. So that was basically the main strategy. So they should move around, but we should always be able to find a position where we can then jump into a close-up. I'm not really sure if I see on my work any sort of difference or in approach. Let's say if I was doing a period feature drama or the Netflix series, I think the approach was very much the same. In a sense, I think we had, of course, it's always a very busy schedule, but the average page count was basically more or less something like 3.5 pages a day, which is in a sense similar to what we do on features. So I think the rhythm, the pace was in a sense very generous. The budget also allowed me to keep my strategy of having the lights outside, which is sometimes in London one of the most, it's very challenging logistically speaking, because you have to block roads and have, massive cranes outside. But in that sense, I feel very privileged to be able to stick to a specific style that was again very challenging to all the departments. But I think that's something that I would have done for a feature film as well. I think it's not really different, and I'm as proud of my work on The Crown as I would probably be on any feature I've done. Yeah.
Well, you should be, because it's really pretty photography. You guys really you fill the frame very well in this, and I mean the sets and the costumes are all very ornately recreated. I wonder if you could talk a bit about the collaboration between you and the costume designer and the production designer, along with the directors, particularly Stephen Daldry, with whom you've worked before, in creating that consistent vision.
Again, I think it's just a combination and lots of dialogue, combination of taste. There was a lucky thing that we realized, at the very beginning, that we were sharing more or less the same approach onto the entire project. So I used to say that we basically, we all tried to avoid the Cinderella look, the super glossy sort of approach. So things shouldn't shine too much. We basically avoided vivid colors all the way through. So all the costumes should somehow respect a specific sort of tone and palette. And I can speak for myself. I really, my point is, I really appreciate what the designer does and what Michel did. So, and I'm because I really work physically very close to the actors, because again, that's my main concern: how to protect them and how to frame them beautifully, and how to manage to give Claire so many close-ups as we did for the whole season. And I'm actually very happy with the quality of the close-ups. And this is something also that I've done series before and features where basically the main strategy is just to give the directors and the actors some freedom to rehearse, and then you basically step away and you watch and shoot the entire scene from a distance, almost like from a voyeuristic documental perspective. That was also considered. I mean, should we just watch this from a distance? But I think we decided and agreed very early on the process that no, we did want to be physically close to the actors. That's why it feels so intimate in my view, and that's why you actually feel and see every texture on the costumes and the fabric, the sophistication of Michel's work and Martin Child's work. So I think one of my main jobs is to enhance and show the other HODs, let's say, head of departments, work. So, and I am a big fan of Martin Child's work and Michel, and I think I really enjoy showing the quality, basically the quality I could see from my naked eyes. It was just, how can I deliver? How can I show how sophisticated their work is? And I think there's also a very interesting level of realism on Peter Morgan's writing, and also, of course, on Claire Foy's performance. So I think it's a much complex combination of acting and writing and the way the camera moves. But the camera is not supposed to be a character on the show, so you're supposed to be close to the characters, but not being there at the same time. So I think it was just basically, it's very hard to translate. I mean, there is no formula. It's just a happy combination of, good taste, sophisticated acting and writing, and Stephen, and Philip Martin and Ben Karen, super enthusiastic directors that gave us, lots of freedom to develop and find a style to then be consistent. So I think that's probably why we got, such a high quality, because it also was a very pleasant job. I mean, really, we really enjoyed. I used to say I didn't have one single bad day on set. When you go to work feeling, okay and confident and embraced and confident about the material you're delivering, was a quite unique experience in that sense. You know, it was very pleasant, and the entire team, the entire group, you know, it did feel like a family. Now we're coming from season 2, and just to give you an idea, I think I can say 90% of the crew came back from season 1 to do season 2. So I think we all had a great time, and I think that shows on the final product, you know.
And for your work, you recently competed for a BAFTA TV award nom. What did that recognition mean for you?
Well, it means a lot, of course, because I am not British, and so it's even more challenging for me to trying to translate visuals, such an important piece or part of their history. But also that might have been one of the most interesting aspects of this team, because, you know, I feel less obliged to be I don't know, formal on my approach to that story. So I think, and also I think it doesn't. If you had watched, I mean, I had done another period film in the UK, Jane Eyre, that I shot in 2010, and I can tell you that it's my lighting approach. It's not very different from that one, and I'm also very proud of Jane Eyre because I think we delivered a very interesting and fresh approach to a very, very well-known story in England, and all the, you know, the repercussion and all the feedback we got from Jane Eyre has always been amazing. I mean, the British love Jane Eyre and the version we delivered. I mean, an American director and a Brazilian DP shooting this, you know, British classic. So I think that's probably a good thing. I mean, you just come free of, you know, I'm not British, so I don't need to respect any specific rules, and I'm probably freer to try other stuff, you know. Yeah.
Well, Adriano Goldman, thank you so much, and congratulations on your work. It was a pleasure talking with you.
Appreciate talking to you, Zach.
Thank you. Have a good one.